Welcome to What's Next, everyone, where we are living our passion at any age. I have wine journalist and wine judge, which I'll have to find out more about that, Bill Ward. Bill Ward has been with the Minneapolis Tribune for a number of years, and he's been writing about his passion, and that is wines. And now you can also find out more information on decant-this.com. That is his personal website, where the information that we have today, that's where it's going to go afterwards. So thank you for joining me, Bill.
It is great to be here.
So the folks who follow us on What's Next, they are in the 50-plus crowd. And I know, because they've told me, they like to travel. Well, a lot of them like to travel to wine country. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit, because that's also your passion. But let's start out, though, with what took you as a journalist into writing about wine.
I moved up here in 1986, and for the first 8 years, I was Sid Hartman's personal editor.
God bless you, and you survived.
I know, I barely did. And I moved over to features, and my passion for wine was on the rise. And I just reached a certain point where I thought, I love to write, I love wine. I'm a combination of a journalist and a hedonist when it comes to wine. And so I decided to start actually learning about wine instead of just enjoying it and trying to find the best $10 Tuesday night Chardonnay you could find. So I started getting together with people in the wine business. I started going to the Wine Writers Symposium. I read, and I did what I tell people that want to learn about wine is the most important thing, and that's to pop corks. Is to open bottles, get together with friends, and enjoy the wines and talk about the wines and how they're different and what you like about them and what you don't like about them. But I just kind of burrowed into the wine world. 11 years ago, I started writing the Liquid Assets column for the Star Tribune.
Nice.
And it's been a glorious ride ever since.
What are some of your favorite Minnesota wines?
Well, the Minnesota wines are getting better and better, and they're about to get exponentially better when the new Itasca grape that the University of Minnesota released a couple of years ago, the vines get old enough to make wine with. But there's some really good Minnesota wines and wineries now. And as far as where people should look to go to taste the wines and to just get that wine country experience, my strongest recommendation is to Waconia, where there are not one, not two, but 3 wineries in that tiny little town. And Parley Lake makes wonderful wines, and their tasting room is in an 1880s barn, and they're aligned with an apple farm. So in the fall, you can do wine and apples at the same time. Sovereign has one of the most beautiful grounds on a lake that you'll ever see. It's just an idyllic picnic spot. And Schram is a more kind of traditional, newer, but very nice tasting room. And all 3 make really, really good wines. And that's to the southwest. If you want to go to the northeast, or if you live in the East Metro, you can head towards Stillwater and go to St. Croix Vineyards, which is also next to Amit's apple farm. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but
I think it's pretty close.
In the journalism world, in the print journalism world, you just have to know how to spell it, not how to say it. In your world,
I'm the opposite.
Yes. And then up at Chisago City, there's a fantastic winery called Winehaven. And they not only make wine and have really beautiful grounds, but they make a lot of honey mead. And the Koreans love honey mead, and Winehaven imports more honey mead into South Korea than any other company in the world. And then a little further north from there is Taylor's Falls. And north of Taylor's Falls is a winery called Wild Mountain that it's not wild, and it's not really a mountain, but it's near the Wild Mountain ski area. But it is absolutely gorgeous. You're on a hill looking down at the St. Croix River. It's as pretty a spot as I've seen along the St. Croix River, and their wines are really nice too. So you can go kind of opposite directions in the compass and really find good wines and just a really good experience. And of course, Waconia, or the other end, you could do all 3 wineries in one day very easily. A couple of things to remember: bring water, and if nobody is going to volunteer to spit, then you might want to do it via Uber or whatever, or just have a designated driver who's going to not consume as much as the others. If you went southwest to Hastings, Alexis Bailey, the state's oldest winery that makes a red wine called Voyagers that I think is one of the very best wines in Minnesota, is a really nice place to visit, and they have bocce ball courts, and it's you know, the people there are really passionate. A little bit further afield, south of Rochester, Four Daughters is a big tasting room restaurant. They make a lot of cider and nice wines. And then further afield, and really this is not even a day trip, up in Alexandria. It's more for people who are going to be out up there in Lake Country, or you could combine it with going to the museum there and seeing the Kensington runestone and trying to decide if that's the real deal or not. They have a nice little city museum there. Is a winery called Carlos Creek, and they make a lot of different wines, and a lot of them are really, really good. And they're further north than most any winery in the state, so their weather is even colder. Their winters are even more severe than ours are here. But the University of Minnesota and grape hybrid breeders, like a guy named Tom Plocker, have created these grapes that can handle the cold for the most part. The polar vortex year, not so much. But this winter, they're fine. And have some actual flavor too. So there are more good wineries in this state than there have ever been, and it's a great way to spend a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. One thing to remember is that on Saturdays, almost all these wineries are probably going to have a wedding going on. Weddings at wineries are enormously popular. Now they'll still, the wedding won't be in the tasting room, and you don't want to be around a whole bunch of partying people when you're trying to sample some wines. Sundays are often a better day to visit, just to avoid running into that. And again, in the fall, when the apples are coming in, the Parley Lake in Waconia and St. Croix in Stillwater are a way to double dip.
Thank you so much for joining me. And again, for more information on what we just talked about, head to decant-this.com.